Alright, Season 6, Episode 2, WDHAT. We don't have a title. So, let's get into it. So the alpha status, it's live and working on mainnet. You're able to view your credit score and see how it's changing over time based on your borrowing behavior. That will influence your credit score. And yeah, it's just really cool seeing that vision actually come alive. So the state of it right now is that we need to improve the user experience of building your credit score, but we have a pretty defined path of it's more of what do we want to do, not can we do it. Sweet. So we're just on slide 4. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, so that is how the credit score experience looks like. And yeah, it's cool seeing it actually live and out there. So that being said, we've also got a bunch of metrics of how it's progressing and how it's tracking. So we've got outstanding loans, interest repaid, everyone's credit scores, feedback we've collected, and now that we've got the metrics that we can measure, actually iterate, improve on these, which is super exciting. So jumping into credit, we're basically between stage 2 and 3, and the main bit is prioritizing what do we want to build next in order to prove and test the thesis of credit score based borrowing. And we've got all these questions that we're answering from a product perspective of essentially, what do we want to build next? What do we want to build before the audit? How do we now enable a path for more people to use this to scale? And how do we make sure we're building things? So thematically, that's really what's next with credit. In terms of what's later, it's speaking with algo stables to become LPs for the system, and thinking of how we use our marketing to attract more. So that's the quick summary on the credit side. In terms of platform, we've got a lot of internal projects closing out or on track to closing out, and deals progressing quite nicely on sales. So yeah, that's really it on platform. In terms of shoutouts, shout out to Diego for his unique proposal around how we might segment users and actually target them for a sales perspective. And then I think the main challenge right now is thinking through what we want to prioritize and build for. So yeah, a lot of really exciting things happening this week. And I'll pass it over to Kyle for engineering to go into some of the details.
Cool, GM, thank you, Kerman. So last week we got lots of UI UX improvements for the from feedback from the alpha. We also found some contract edge cases that we can make some improvements on, so we're working on that. That's the whole point of having an alpha, right? Is finding all these weird little impossible scenarios that never happen, but apparently, if it's bound to go wrong, it will. We also finished up the supply page. So now we can, include an nice UI for our pools. We also started migrating some stuff for Merkle root security. So that was last week. This week, we want to continue with the alpha fixes. We still got quite a few things to touch up on. We're going to finish up the Merkle root security stuff. We're pretty much done. There's only a day or two left max, and we just got to deploy it. We're kicking off moving Merkle tree calculations into Titan. So that's a big one. This unlocks a lot of cool future features, such as reducing delays, such as putting more scores on chain and making us scale much more effectively. So that's really cool. We also have a few little tweaks that we want to do on our developer docs. So that's coming up this week. So shout out to Gabe and Yarek. They are wizards on the credit side. I don't know how they find the solutions to the problems, but they always do. And also Kale, thank you for welcoming me into the data world and helping me kick off the Merkle trees into Titan. So challenges, synchronizing changes between Asana and Notion. So we use both tools, and we do have a good process in place. We just need to keep using it on a more frequent basis and make sure that we stay in sync between what's happening in the Asana world and what's happening in the Notion world. But that's about it. Also, hopefully Gab listens to this. He's on vacation, so shout out to Gab. Hope he's enjoying it, and I hope he's having a good time. So Kicking it off to Kale.
TM. Thank you. What's going on in our world? Sorry, I'm just getting organised. From Titan's perspective, we released our first round of risk reporting for the Alpha Borrow platform. So Kerman was showing some of those figures before, and thank you, Hugh, for helping pull that together with Stuart. We've been talking about this EVM kind of ETL project we've been doing. So we've got a localized version working of that, and this week coming up is doing a deployment of all the infrastructure around that. Stuart's been releasing analyses around liquidations and liquidator behaviors. So this is a really, really crucial kind of component of our risk system, because ultimately our whole thesis is we don't want to liquidate people. So we want to really invest in this and go, all right, what should the numbers be to kind of make sure it works, but also make sure that it kind of supports our thesis. And then outside of that is, last week was just a lot of EDA. So lots of deals coming down the pipeline. So that's Kerman and Liam. So thank you for that. Lots of deals. So we've been supporting those things. So for this week, there'll be the internal release of Casio. That's what I'm kind of expecting. So Diego's been working very, very hard on that for a few months. I'm sure everyone who tunes into these calls would know. We'll have an internal release of that this week, I expect. We'll be doing that deployment, as I mentioned, the EVM chains. And then talking about removing the bottlenecks. That's to Kyle's point around the Merkle trees and Titan. So that's one thing that will happen this week and kind of improve that Merkle publisher performance. And then again, still supporting deals with Sparta. Shout out. So Gabe and Kyle, I'll shout them out first. So they have done the service of coming down the stack and really playing dirty in our data world. So big thank you for that. It's not fun changing stacks and learning new tools and new languages. So, go on you for kind of coming into our crazy world. Another big shout out to Liam. So Liam has been pushing really hard to learn how to code and learn visualizations and learn all this kind of crazy stuff. So, as a kind of a business development or a salesperson in crypto, for him to be picking up the tools is just awesome. I have a lot of respect for him. It's hard work. And then Stuart for taking the reins with risk. He's pushing that really, really well, and it's looking really cool. Challenges. One challenge I'm kind of issuing to myself is that we're doing a lot of work around EDA and finding all these interesting things and building all these interesting graphs for all of our Sparta conversations. And it's like, how do we start to repackage that while preserving privacy? We can't just take the findings and show them. That kind of is a breach of privacy for the people we're talking to. But how do we start to actually reuse some of that and release it as content and really kind of show some of the really interesting findings that we have? So that's stuff that I'm kind of challenging myself on, is going, how do we repackage this into a whole bunch of content that we can release with the community? That's it for me. So over to the Spartans, or better known as Liam.
GM. Can we move slides? Cheers, thanks. Sorry, I don't know who was on it. Cool, so last week was really about defining a lot of the segmentation and incentive frameworks for two of the customers that we're sort of looking at getting to the pointy end of. And we're also working through just building out those docs and helping design those incentive systems. And there was also some inbound qualification that happened just based off of some interest that we had that went really well. So this week it's just continually focusing on closing out two of the opportunities and moving and progressing them through Snapshot. But a lot of this, comes down to just settling on the incentive framework and settling on essentially how we want to rationalize the allocation of tokens. So there's also some more servicing of inbound. There's a few that have come through, and there are some partnership opportunities that are in flight as well that we just need to keep nurturing. Wanted to have a big shout out for Kale, who is really bringing the power of data into the sales process, and I just think it's really exciting. And it's really we're showing people data that's just like blowing their minds, and the feedback and engagement that we're getting is just phenomenal. We were on a call on Friday and they brought the whole DAO onto the call that we were having, and it was just fantastic. So I really want to shout out Kale and all the work he's doing in the data world to make the vision come true and for the customer. So the challenges that Kale is really also helping me with is how do we scale out the outbound process? So, how can we use data to engage customers who might want our help? So looking for something that we're talking about called catalysts in the market. So not just door knocking in different Discord servers, etc., but actually looking for the catalyst opportunity for how our platform can help based on how we've serviced people in the past. So that's a big thing that we're figuring out, and that's just really targeted outbound essentially. And then another thing that Kale and I are trying to figure out as we do more deals is how do we templatize how we tell the story to customers? And this is sort of like, are there common views that we can repeatably show customers that make sense to them? So that's another challenge that we're working through. All in all, though, that's everything from me this week, and I will pass over to Hugh in product and growth.
Thanks, Liam. Yep, cool. So last week, a lot of, as Kevin mentioned, we're running our internal alpha for our credit score-based borrowing product. That's now, gone through the ringer for a week with the team, and we're getting some feedback and bugs coming thick and fast. So that's been kind of synthesized and shared with the team. As well, like we're now getting to a point where we're kind of thinking about like, okay, what are the key metrics that we want to track for credit once we go live with our broader release? So defining those and then being able to monitor them from like a product analytics perspective is going to be super helpful. So to spend a bit of work defining that. Also, like there's a bit of design feedback that I gave on the developer documentation, very minor tweaks, but should make it look a little bit nicer. And yeah, helped with refining the backlog and getting some alignment on priorities across both credit and platform. And then the final thing here is just getting some sweet graphics for our marketing efforts. This was for the Juicebox airdrop announcement. Big shout out to Gabe for getting everything ready for our upcoming audit. Pretty intense way to spend money, so making sure that it's like all set up properly is going to be a massive high leverage effort there. So yeah, I really appreciate it. This week ahead, we have some work on thinking through the implementation of platform for some of our next customers. That's going to be a bit of like a design discovery work. Also going to spend a bit of time speaking with customers for borrowing. If anyone on the call is a borrower and would like to provide maybe like 30 minutes of their time to support the cause of ARCx, then would really appreciate it. And really keen to understand how the current iteration resonates, and then get some ideas for what we want to build next. Also going to spend time actually putting together that product analytics dashboard, and then preparing any subsequent requirements for the sprint planning that's coming up at the end of the week. And then one last thing is just around user documentation for credit. So writing that out and putting it on Notion. That's essentially it. Challenges: finding and speaking to more borrowers within our target demographic. As mentioned, like we're looking at the retail and whale segment for DeFi borrowers. We know that there's a lot of you out there, but we need to figure out where you are and how to find you. So that's like a key thing, and making sure that we tap into the right sources there will be really important. And that's basically it from me.
Well, Hugh, could you jump back to the slide number 4 around the alpha status? I see we've got Jamaz, Woody, and Jax on the call. Quick update around some of the cool stuff we've done on credit, which you're speaking. So thanks all for joining in. Just wanted to show you a quick preview of what we've actually done with the credit score, how it looks. That's basically the modal, and you can actually see how to build your credit score, track the changes over time, and actually gain more points for increasing it. So It's live, it's working, and we actually have a bunch of metrics around how we're tracking the success of it as well. So we'll probably share more of it with the community as it becomes more fleshed out. But for those of you that have joined the call, I want to give you guys a bit of quick alpha. So yeah, thanks for that. And then we can jump to Q&As. So I think, Joel, do you have those questions?
Yep.
Yep, sweet.
So are there any plans to go to Optimism and ride its hype? I remember you don't need to crack any code to deploy an Optimism.
Yeah, so there's no direct need to deploy on. We want to avoid chasing, focusing on actually move the needle. So we'll definitely get around to it, and we are building support for ingesting data from other chains. But until there's any like clear pressing demand, it's not the best use of like our resources just yet. So easy. Well, thanks for everyone joining in today. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you all next week. Goodbye.